Welcome to an all-new episode of Colorful Lives presented by State Farm. This season, we're focusing on all the things we wish we knew before major life events. In this week's episode, we're going to dig into all the things you should know before having kids. Does anybody ever truly feel ready to have kids? Probably not. But there are definitely some steps you can take to help secure your family's future, and they should also give you some more confidence while facing the unknown. Now, Tonya is our resident money mama, a.k.a. she's the only one of us that has children. So she'll be taking the lead in this week's discussion.
Well, yeah, I'm the only one who did that thing.
Listen, well, to kick it off, Tonya, small question, but what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned since having a kid?
We can talk for
how
hours.
much time you got? No.
The show is 4 hours.
You know, like, no matter how much you think you planned, there's always going to be something that you didn't plan for when it comes to having children. I mean, I think that we were as prepared as most people could be to have Karis, but they were just, you know, I tallied up how much I spent on Karis, like the first 3 weeks of his life. And it added up to like $4,000.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, that's because I'm an extra mom too. So I have to admit I'm extra. And there's some things that I probably didn't have to do that I chose to do, or like some things like we ended up buying an entirely new bedroom set and everything else, and getting rid of our old one because Karis did not like sleeping in his bassinet that he had. And it was just so many things that I wasn't expecting. We brought in help. Around the 6-week mark, I thought I could have made it longer, but sleep deprivation is real.
Right.
And so I wanted support. And it was more expensive. That was one thing. Like, it was more expensive than I realized it would have been. Mm-hmm. So I would advise someone to save even more than they think they need because, yeah.
What about before Karis came? What were some of those expenses as you were getting ready?
Yeah. So, you know, as a Black woman, we've heard that Black women have the highest maternal mortality statistics, regardless of educational class, income level, et cetera. And so for me, it was really important to have a supported birth. So I hired a midwife and I had my OBGYN.
Wow.
And so we paid for our midwife out of pocket. Like, that wasn't covered by our insurance. Paid for out of pocket. We took birthing classes. So we took 12-week birthing classes. Those weren't cheap. And then there were just other things that we decided to do to prepare ourselves for his arrival, which I'm so happy I did because I ultimately had the birth that I wanted.
Right.
And that's what led to me creating the nonprofit, because I have the birthing experience I wanted, but there was one point when I was in delivery, and there's this time called transition where your body is like preparing, you're getting fed all these endorphins and everything to help you with the pain of childbirth and so forth. And so there's this rush of hormones, and my body literally started shaking. Like, I started to shake, my teeth started chattering.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember looking at my midwife like, oh my God, am I dying? Is this happening? Like, is this what happens when people die in childbirth? And she was like, no, you're absolutely fine. You're in transition. But like, her being able to reassure me made me feel comfortable. And I think that could have been a turning point between me being anxious and shutting down during childbirth and me being like, okay, my body's doing what it needs to do. Let's do this, and allowed me to progress. So that was one of the best investments, was investing in birth education and support.
How did you decide also what you were going to do for maternity leave? Because
As an
you're your own boss.
Yes, So last year
Did you give yourself time off?
I did. I ended up so last year I was flying around the country collecting all the bags. No, I was flying around just really
saw you working.
Yeah, I was working.
Okay.
Like, Karis flies well now, I think, because I flew so much then, but just really saving money, paying off everything that we could pay off, just really getting ahead of our finances and saving money. My team, that was really important, was getting me and my team worked together for about 2 months to get them up to speed so that I could step back in the business when it just, the bottom wouldn't fall out of my business.
Right.
So I ended up going on maternity leave. So it's funny, I was looking at my emails afterwards. I went into labor on Thanksgiving Eve, and I wasn't supposed to go into labor until the following week. And so I had a campaign that I was supposed to launch the day I went to labor.
You're like, wait until the wheels fall off.
I responded. They were like, do you think you can get the post up today? And I was like, so I'm in labor right now. And they're like, oh my God.
We can wait.
They're like, the post can absolutely wait.
Literally worked up. We had a Black Friday sale for MyFeb Finance. Literally worked up until the last minute, and then I ended up staying out. I stayed off the road until May of the following year, and I took maternity leave from my business completely until March. I just have so much more respect for women. I mean, I've always respected women. I am a woman. I've always loved, being a woman and having my friendships and valued them. But it just took it to a whole other level.
Right.
When you realize,
going through what you went through and knowing what it takes.
And my mom,
right.
My mom was like, you did that for me? You did that. So it definitely transformed my business, my life, and my availability, and also my tolerance.
Well, one thing I want to talk about also is I love looking at kids' clothes, right? I have no babies, but I enjoy shopping I have 4 godchildren. I have 19 cousins. So I love looking at stuff for kids. So let's talk about birthday gifts, holiday gifts for your son and for other loved ones as well. How do you set limits and how do you set a budget for something like that?
I mean, it's so easy to spend so much on children's clothes because compared to our clothes, you're like, what, $6.99? It seems like a drop in the bucket. Then you realize they can only wear it one time. But I think as far as setting limits, I'm not that good at setting limits. I'm not going to lie.
Keep it real.
I'm not going to lie. It's
Listen,
my first child.
Tell us the truth. Tell us the truth.
I became financially secure so I could do what I wanted. I am very intentional about not buying him extravagant gifts and so forth. I want him to have more worth in his 529 plan and his savings. I want him to have more set aside in his bank account than he has in his nursery.
Right.
So, and as far as my father, when they ask, what can we buy him? So and so and so, Easter, they want to buy him an Easter basket. I was like, he doesn't even know what an egg is.
Right. He's not going to remember this.
Put the money in his 529 plan. And so I was really happy that by the time he was 6 months, he had $2,000 put aside in it. And we just put the money, we just put money in there. And I think that people have to do what makes sense for them, but you also have to realize these children are going to grow up. And I think you have to ask yourself, a lot of people, what your parents do for you work, or what do you wish they would have done differently? And for me, the thing I wish my parents would have done differently is saved towards my education and had something for me financially when I graduated from college.
Right.
And so that's what I'm working towards with Karis. And our limitations are what's within our budget, and I think everybody should consider that. I just hate when I see, children who have an amazing wardrobe and they have all this designer stuff. I'm like, well, do they own any stock? Yeah. Do they have a bank account? Do they have money set aside in savings? What kind of assets have you purchased for this child? Because these sneakers that they can't wear past the next 2 months is not an asset for them.
Yeah, and I think it's good too, because I have so many cousins and I have so many all of my friends are having children right now. And I think that also I have to remind myself all the time that there are ways that I can give to them that don't have to be material.
Yes, that's what just made me think about that, because I love spoiling the kids with things that their parents would probably never buy them. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this and that and this.
I'm the Hot Wheels auntie. I'm like, I will always give them to.
They're still a kid.
Right, but one of my friends' kids recently who I really love, I was thinking about what I could give them because they also have a lot. And I was like, you don't need one more toy. And, making a charitable contribution to a charity that they cared about in his name. That was something that they ended up telling me was really touching to them, and I think that it just teaches that you can give different things. Yeah. And there are friends' kids who I've bought stock for them because I was like, I want financial literacy to be a part of your life. Yeah. And this is a way that we can have this conversation later. It could be my aunt so-and-so got me bonds, or she got me the stock when I was young, and then we just keep up with it. But so I really appreciate that you talk about the 529 account because it's so important to save for the future.
And I think we could give to parents too. Honestly.
Make a plug for your mom registry. What do you need?
After you first birthday. Until you have
After his first birthday, if you guys want to send me a birthday gift, I will gladly receive it. But no, it really did I realized what people go through adjusting to having a child. And one of the scariest moments of my life was when I took him home, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to keep this human alive. This is I could go to jail if something happens to him. I have to keep him alive. It is my responsibility. And now I look at it when he has his first birthday, this is my birthday. This is a day I became a mother. Yeah. And so even when I have other friends and it's their child's first birthday, I'm like, happy birthday. Right. Because that was a day your life changed as well. And, I always give my parents a gift on my birthday. Just like, thank you for making my life possible. Thank you for everything you've done. And I just hope Karis one day gives me birthday.
He will definitely be giving you some presents.
He'll hear this and he'll definitely do it for you.
Hopefully you're watching this. This episode is dedicated.
I know, but I also think that in that same vein, I have a lot of friends who have adopted kids, and I also notice that people do not celebrate the adoptive parents.
That's a big deal.
I think that just like remembering that families come in every size, shape, everything,
this
and
is
that
the day you
it's
became a parent.
It's so important to like celebrate that.
And I think, I don't know, is there anything that your parents did for you guys financially that it makes you say, you know what, this is something I'd like to continue on?
No.
I think that with my parents, I remember a lot that my dad used to talk about how much money he made, and he would tell us about the bills that we had as children. He never did it in a way to like shame us, but I just remember being like, oh yeah, my father like supports us, and he does it in this way because he would always explain our financial situation to us. And I think that like when you're a kid, sometimes it's really tough, because we're like, I want this or I want that. And he would say, it's like, well, one of the reasons our vacation is smaller this year is because like we're trying to plan for X, Y, Z. And I think that as I got older, I really appreciated that a lot. I was like, I'm like, I don't think most of my friends know how much money their parents made when they were kids.
I definitely didn't know.
And I was like, I knew that. I was like very, very aware of it. And I just really appreciated that it was done in a way that it just gave me a scope of how much life cost. And it wasn't like they didn't use it like as a tool to like make you feel bad. So I think that was really good. And also like my dad was really big about saving. I had a piggy bank as soon as I could hold one. And, and we also like, we grew up like very not comfortable when I was young. And I remember having to, sometimes like we got to take money out of the piggy bank to like pay for our own things or for doing things. And I just think that like the younger you are, the more you understand like what money is and what it can and cannot do. It will save you a lot of pain down the road.
And I think that's the biggest thing I preach is that money isn't everything, but it gives you options. And whether that is as an adult when you graduate from college or as a parent or as someone who is, expecting to grow your family, it gives you the option of what you want that experience to look like. And I think financial security, yes, we want to, shmoney team because it helps enhances the quality of our life, but it really does allow you to live life on your terms and really, I remember at one point my doctor, my insurance wasn't going to cover a certain test. And he's like, do you still want to do it? And I was like, yeah, we'll pay for it out of pocket. But for someone else, I might have been like, well, we can't afford it.
Right.
So it gives you the option to experience life in these transitional experiences on your terms, but it gives our children options to experience, graduation, or maybe there's a school they want to go to, or maybe they want to take a gap year and there's a scholarship that they won't be able to receive because they have to go to school immediately or something of that nature. But it gives them the option to live life on their terms too. And I think that's a gift.
I just remember my parents arguing about money all the time, but not really discussing it. Like they were arguing about bills, and I know for sure my dad was making more money than my mom, and he would make her feel bad about it, and then they would just be arguing about what bills weren't getting paid, who was using the credit card, and why is this credit card bill so high, and then my mom hiding things that she was buying. She would leave everything in the trunk, and then when my dad went to sleep or something, she would
bring him in. I'm gonna do that too. Like he's not gonna see the bill. Like, okay, mom.
So it was just things like that, but we never had conversations about money ever, and I wish we would have, because it would have helped me when I went to college and when I started making my own little bit of money.
Do you have conversations with them now about money?
I actually told my mom, let's get your credit together, and she was so embarrassed to send me her all her information so I can pull her credit score. So I pulled it so I could see what was on it that was negative, see what her score was, see how much she owed, and she did not want to. It took me like months for me to get it from her. So
it's
that
hard.
I could talk
it's
to
hard
her.
to talk about.
She would not give me her information.
Yeah, I think our parents, we're like growing up, your parents are your heroes, and you start to look at them as adults and you look at their mistakes and you then start to wonder, like, well, they're not as awesome as I thought they were. In all of facets of life, they're human just like me. They were figuring it out just like
your parents were young ones. Like, that's
your
the thing
parents
you need to know.
were young ones. They made mistakes, and I think it's important to talk to our own or even elders. Whether it's a aunt, uncle, grandparent, whoever in our life, just to let them know, like, it's okay. It's okay.
Like I took my mom on vacation, right, for a week, and she wanted us to share a room. And I was like, Mom, we really don't need to share rooms. She's like, no, but it's expensive. Why would we get 2 rooms? I'm like, Mom, trust me, I can afford to get 2 rooms because I need to have my sanity on this trip.
I want to enjoy this trip with you. I need a break.
Like, young lady, you need your own room.
Did that, but I do wish, like you said, as far as putting aside some money for college, that would have been something that happened to me when I was younger. Now, is there a best time to start saving for college? And what if you yourself are still hoping to go back to school? My mom had us, and she actually really wanted to go to college, and she didn't go to college. She lets us know this because my dad went to college, but my mom didn't end up going to college, and that's something that she still regrets to this day.
Yeah, that can be challenging. Like, how am I saving for my child's college, or am I going to college myself to get a better opportunity or to grow, just improve my income earning potential? And I think that one of the good things is, as a single parent, not a single parent, but as a parent or as a mother, sometimes you do have scholarships available to you. So don't count yourself out. Look and see what financial assistance is out there available specifically for mothers or people who have children or who are returning to school or who are non-traditional students. But I think that compounding interest, the beauty of that is that, your money can continue to work for you, and maybe you can't contribute regularly, but maybe you do receive, when you get your tax return or you receive a large sum of money, put that aside. So if it's not a regular contribution, it's something, and you put something aside that you can't touch that's going to go towards your child's future. And maybe it can't cover their entire tuition, but maybe it purchases their books or their meal plan or something of that nature, because college is expensive.
And also, who knows what it's going to look like in 20 years, right?
What education, there's a lot of pushback on what education looks like, but I think we'll see an evolving perspective of what it looks like to be successful and the roads to success. I think we're going to see a big switch up of that as other generations graduate. And I'm happy that we're at this point where there are so many people I know in my own life who are very successful and didn't go to college.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it gives other people hope and gives them options if they can't afford college or if their parents didn't put money aside for them. That debt is not the only way for them to be successful.
I do think that there are some lines of work where college is necessary, obviously, like to go to...
I need my doctor to go to college.
Right.
I need a doctor. Yeah. I need you to do that.
There's definitely some things that require that, but then, of course, there's other jobs that you don't have to go to college for. And then I think some people, if you have the opportunity to go, it's a good experience.
It is.
Yeah.
And I know I appreciate the fact that I went to college, even though I paid for it for like 12 years after. I wouldn't not do it.
Yeah, but you also don't have to go to debt to go. You don't have to go into debt to go to college, right? I think that for a lot of people, looking at options that are cheaper and more affordable to you it doesn't mean that it's a lesser choice, right? So
like community college.
Community college is a really, really, really important jumping off point for a lot of people.
It is.
And also, especially like if you don't know what you want to do, but you know that, that's maybe a track you want to be on, go to community college. And I would say that to somebody who wants to return to school also. You can go to your local college. You can call up your local university and say, hi, I'm a continuing education student.
Right.
What are my options? What's available? I think that not counting yourself out for financial reasons is really important. And also looking at all the options that you have. You don't have to pay $100,000 to get any kind of education.
Right. Yeah. State colleges. And even sometimes at your job, they'll pay for you to continue your education.
That's
right.
big.
And you can and also college is not the only form of education that you can have. Like you can be self-taught. You can go to the library and see if there are programs that you can do.
There's online degrees you can get also that are a lot less expensive.
I think that's the biggest lesson that I want to impart on Karis. Education doesn't stop in the classroom. Like it might start, and actually I think education starts at home, to be honest. But I don't think that it ends in the classroom, and it's not limited to the classroom. Yeah. And so regardless of your setting, always be looking for opportunities to learn. And so while we're putting money aside for his future, my goal is that he can utilize that money to start a business, or he can utilize that money to, purchase his first property or something of that nature, because he's figured out, what education looks like for him, and he's able to use the money towards something else. And we do want another one, so it's like, what do we do with the next one? Like,
well, you're a little more prepared. You already have some of the stuff.
Yeah, now we have to divvy all these resources to, to another child, possibly. But
I think that's great to do it back to back.
I know. And that's really annoying. I have to say this. When you see a person who just had a baby, don't ask them when the next one is coming. Because I promise, I was suffering from PTSD. As beautiful as my birth was, I was traumatized for the first 2 weeks. I was like, oh my gosh, I just went into battle with my body. And just let people settle in.
My mom was like, childbirth was the most excruciating, painful experience of my life.
It's nothing like it. No, there's nothing anyone can do. And, we spent all this money on classes. We had a great birth team, but there's nothing anyone can prepare you for that experience. Yeah. It's and I'm sure other experiences that you two went through your life, there's certain things, nothing anybody tells you, no book that you read can prepare you for what it is like.
You have to go through it.
You just gotta do it.
I think, it's also just giving people the option to decide what they want for themselves, right? And so it's not about scaring them about having a family or not. It's just, what's the most prepared that you can be for a thing that you can never prepare for?
Right.
Good luck.
Right. Exactly. Just do what you can.
Yeah.
Do what you can.
We're talking a lot about having a baby in this week's episode, and we hope that sharing our perspective helps. But this podcast isn't the only resource. There are nearly 19,000 State Farm agents all over the U.S. who are waiting to help protect what's important to you and guide you through major life milestones. For this week's Ask an Agent segment, we reached out to Zanetta Harris-Glover, who has an office in Newark, New Jersey, to get some practical advice before having kids.
Hey ladies, this week I want to focus on all you awesome working moms out there. I know it's not always easy, but you still make it happen and power through. So how do you focus on something like saving for college tomorrow when you're worried about paying for childcare today? Did you know that more than 11 million U.S. children under the age of 5 are in childcare? If your child is one of them, the cost is likely a significant line item in your budget. However, when your child begins elementary school and no longer requires full-time care, you'll see a significant increase in your discretionary income each month. But before you convert those child care dollars into disposable income, consider saving those funds for your child's college education. After all, you're already accustomed to living without the income. If you would like to save more towards your child's education, consider an education savings plan for qualified higher education expenses. And for birthdays and other special occasions, have the grandparents contribute money towards college. Your child will eventually outgrow toys, but a quality education lasts a lifetime. You might also want to review your life insurance needs and consider a State Farm life insurance policy. This will ensure your child could still afford to go to college if you were to die prematurely. And for more tips and insight on saving for your child's college education, talk to your local State Farm agent and visit statefarm.com.
For the second half of today's show, we're joined by Yaya Smith. Hey, Yaya.
Hi.
Hey. She is the founder of the Feminine Success School, where she provides coaching to help women flourish in all facets of their life. Well, thank you for joining the show, of course, Yaya.
You're welcome.
Now, to start us off, let us know what a Feminine Success Coach actually does.
So, as a Feminine Success Coach, I really help women stop choosing either or and say and. So, if you want a marriage or a relationship and a career, why choose? You can have both and you can make them work well together.
I love that. So with 4 kids and a busy career, do you believe in work-life balance, or how do you make it all work?
I believe in work-life harmony.
Ooh.
I don't believe in work-life balance because I can't give the same amount to everything all the time.
Yeah.
But I do believe in harmonizing things. So I have a crib in my office so that I can watch my baby sleep while I'm working with my clients. So yeah.
Work-life harmony.
Yes.
And then I know there has to be some costs associated with that, right? You have the crib and the office, and then you also have to have the nursery. Everything has to be soothing and comfortable because, of course, you want your baby to have that quality of life as an infant also. So what are the costs associated with that?
Children in general cost. Children definitely cost. However, we try to keep the cost to a minimum. We try to keep our children engaged with life and, nature and outside. So we definitely invest in their education. We invest in our littlest baby, just making sure that she has everything that she needs. Insurance, of course, is a cost. 529 plans, which I learned about through Tonya. That's a cost, but I don't look at it as a cost as much as I look at it as an investment in my kids.
Yeah, definitely. And you have 3 boys and 1 girl. Like that, I mean, she's going to have, big brothers to look up to. And
she's the youngest?
Yes.
Yeah, her baby
good
is
for
the
you.
girl. She's like, it's going to be a tough road for some people because she has her own team and her own tribe, but that's beautiful too.
Well, thinking about costs, how do you make decisions about being very conscious about the things that you buy? Do you read the labels on everything? Does it matter to you where the kids' toys are made or the clothes that they wear, that kind of stuff?
Or the food that they eat too.
I am definitely the mom that is taking up room on the grocery aisle, reading all the boxes, reading all the labels.
You have to.
Making sure we have lots of wooden toys in our home, so making sure that they're not using things that could potentially be toxic
like
in the
no
future.
lead paint and any of the
lead
toys.
paints and things like that. We're very conscious about where we're buying toys from. I love handmade things and things from, people who are thinking about what they're putting into their products. But we also grow food. So a lot of the things that, we could complain about, we just say, how can we fix it? How can we make revolutionary choices?
So y'all are doing farm to table. Like y'all are farm to table at home.
And so do the boys know how to actually farm?
Yes.
So far?
They love to grow food. We have a backyard garden, and we also have a community garden in the Lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans that we run.
I love it. And I think that that's so important because I think that especially our generation, we're disconnected from where our food comes from. I remember when I was working here in Brooklyn, we would take people to a farm in upstate New York, and so many people had not seen food growing out the ground. It was crazy how many people just like that's what corn looks like growing, or that's what a cucumber looks like on the stem, and we're so detached, and I think that's a life skill, so that's amazing.
Yes, definitely. We have wild mulberry trees around our garden, and folks will drive past like, are y'all supposed to be eating that? We're like, yes, it's a fruit, and it's food right in your neighborhood.
Yeah. And there's nothing like it too. Like my grandfather, my grandparents are from the West Indies, and he definitely had like the sugar cane growing in the backyard and the mangoes falling off the trees. And even at our house in Brooklyn, he would grow like his own little mint leaves to make tea with and things like that. And it's nice to see where everything comes from, and there's nothing more fresh.
Yes.
And I think that this kind of goes in line with you all have decided to homeschool your children, which I think is amazing. I actually kind of touched on that our goal is to homeschool Karis. So for parents who are thinking about homeschooling, what does that look like to set it up? Were there any initial costs associated? And like, what advice would you give to a parent that says, I think I want to homeschool?
We were super young starting out as a family, and we've homeschooled the whole way through. So at first, I was really looking at ways to set up a classroom. At that time, it was preschool. Set up a classroom in our home without spending as much. And we got to know a lot in that time. So we were definitely in the dollar stores and in the big box stores, really looking for those little things. But advice that I would give is to be flexible, for sure, because when we're in traditional schools, we kind of are used to that one curriculum. But as you learn your child, you realize that each child has a different learning style. And as they grow, their learning style can change. And maybe for math, they learn one way, and in social studies, they learn another way. Also with, young children, especially making sure that you're hands-on with the way that you're teaching, allowing them to get outside in nature, allowing them to be in gardens and get outside and play and get dirty like we used to do as kids.
Yeah.
My children now are obsessed with chess. So they're calling me on the phone like, Mom, did you find us a new chess set while you're traveling? But they're obsessed with chess. And I think that homeschool really gives them the opportunity to stretch and grow and figure out what they really like. And we're able to give them access to those things.
So you do the teaching?
Yes, me and my husband.
Okay, that's amazing. You said you don't want to do that, Tonya.
No, I don't. If I had to step in, I will. But if I have to step in. But yeah, my goal is maybe like a homeschool community. But also your children, there's 4 of them. Well, there's 3 who are being homeschooled, so they kind of have their own classroom right there. I think my fear is just Karis being the only person in his classroom with me, and him not really learning how to deal with other personalities and so forth. I think it's more of a social thing than capacity thing. But Amina, you were homeschooled, right?
I was homeschooled for a little bit, and I actually really enjoyed it the years that I was homeschooled, mostly in middle school. But, you know, I think it worked well with my personality. I still think that you should probably let your children choose how they want to be socially around other people, because I think that at different ages it means different things. And, you know, that I was homeschooled, but I was also in a community where a lot of other kids were homeschooled. So it meant that I was never alone. And it wasn't just like me and my siblings clawing at each other every day. But I think a thing that my parents did very well too is that if they were like, okay, this is hard and we don't understand it and we can't do that, it's okay to bring in outside help. And so I think that never limiting education for any kind of purposes is important. And also, you know, some kids' personality is like they will thrive in other kinds of environments. So I think it's just important to check in.
And one thing I am big on social is talking about how schooling doesn't end outside of the classroom, and that even as a parent, as you mentioned, you visit big box stores and so forth and find different learning materials. I think that it costs, you know, it's so affordable. I was in one store, you know, they had the dollar section, and they had these little flashcards and everything. And I think that, you know, as a parent, you can still teach your child things at home. You can still work with them and round out whatever education they're receiving from whatever you decide or whatever method you decide to educate them. And it's not expensive.
Absolutely. We are totally community based. New Orleans is just a very close knit community. So we have music teachers, we have language teachers, we have math teachers, really, others who come in and support us, but we're their primary teachers.
I love that. I love that you have support.
Now, another question to switch gears a little bit is life insurance and life insurance policies. I just got life insurance last year, and I never had it before because I don't have children. And people used to tell me, well, if you don't have kids, you don't really need life insurance, but found out that's not really true and can't just listen to word of mouth and what people are telling you.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about life insurance policies and why they're important.
Oh, for sure. Life insurance is important for us because you just never know what's going to happen. I travel a lot. I fly a lot. My husband does as well, and making sure that our children are covered. And when you are an entrepreneur or self-employed and you're building a business, for me, I want to make sure that if I leave, if that income is at all affected, that my children are well cared for, and that, you know, even if my husband is gone, that I don't have that worry and that fear.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, one of my friends was telling me her mom has life insurance, and not only does she have life insurance, but she already has paid for her own funeral and has everything planned out. Like,
That's
so that
responsible.
Right, so that if something happens, and, you know, we should all hope our parents want us to outlive them. But if something should happen, then at least while you're in the middle of grieving, you don't also have to worry about finances and planning a funeral.
Yes, my mother-in-law is that way.
Really?
She has herself planned out, paid, everything is paid. Her husband, everything is paid. And that's her mindset, is that my husband's an only child. So if anything were to happen to them, or because they're older, when something happens, she wants him to have as little to worry about as possible.
And children get life insurance policies too, right?
Yeah.
Yes, our children are riders.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, because I do know that some people decide to take a life insurance policy out on their child. I know that's something my mom talked to me about when Karis was born, was getting a life insurance policy on him and et cetera. And I think we have to change that frame of mind that because you're taking a life insurance policy out on somebody, that you're going to do something harmful to them to cash in on the policy.
Right.
Like, yes, it happens, but you need to stop watching those television shows. It's, you know, sometimes it is just solid financial planning. Is it really preparing for the future because things are going to happen?
And also bad things happen all the time, right? It's like that's the entire business model of insurance, and it's a reason that insurance is it's the backbone of our financial system because emergencies happen. And you know, I just, like, we've all experienced loss and grief, and I think that the more you can make it easy for people in their grieving process, the easier it is just down the road for everyone. So good planning is always a good idea.
Because I have to say, like, even when you think about health insurance, you know, you didn't think, oh, my parents are going to get me sick because they got me health insurance.
Right,
you
you're
know?
going to use this insurance.
Yeah, or I'm going to get in a car accident because I got auto insurance. No, it's because you're protecting yourself. But I think that
protecting other people.
Yeah, I think death makes people a little more. It's just something that people don't necessarily like to talk about.
Yeah, but you have to. You have to plan for that because it's something that's inevitable for everyone.
Yeah, we're all born.
And we all die. What's really interesting, though, is it's also a wealth builder. So my mother-in-law, she has several policies on my husband. And when we wanted to start a business, she cashed one of those in and gave us the money.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
You have a good mother-in-law.
Yeah, she's smart.
She sees all the corners, all the
she's a smart lady.
And that's beautiful that she said, okay, use this to start a business. Because I do think that for people who don't have the financial means to do things such as contributing to a 529 regularly or putting money aside for their children, when they're younger, maybe there is an opportunity for you to say, you know what, I'm going to do this for you so that you have this asset available to you in the event of something, or you can cash in on it now that I'm financially able to do this. Right. So kudos to her. I think more people should aspire to be like your mother-in-law.
And do you already have do you already have like a college fund set up for all four of them?
So the 529 is my thoughts around the college fund, because they can use it how they want. Mm-hmm. So when they get to that age, if they want to go to college, my oldest wants to be an engineer, so of course he's going to go to college. But my middle son wants to be a chef, so he can use it for culinary school. Yeah. My 4-year-old wants to be a warrior, so I'm not sure he's going to go to college for that. I'm not sure what he's going to use it for.
That's for that. Adorable. Sure. He's going to be a warrior.
He wants to be a warrior.
He can be a justice warrior. He can be an attorney. He could be. There's so many different type of warriors he could be. Right. That's so adorable, though.
Well, definitely. We're going to go into today's money meditation, and all of this talk of children, I feel is, let's take a trip down memory lane. Mm-hmm. Everybody, we like to center ourselves when we do the meditation. But for today, think back to growing up when you first started collecting allowance or saving up money you received as a gift. When did you realize the value of $1? What are some of the most valuable lessons about money that you've learned? And if you can recall a specific piece of advice that helped you think about finances in a new way. And so, I think now would be good for all of us to talk about and meditate on, how do you plan to pass that knowledge on?
These are so good. As far as what I want to pass on to Karis, what I've learned, being an entrepreneur has taught me that it's not necessarily how hard you work, it's how smart you work. And so I want to encourage Karis to be a smart worker. I think smart work is hard work for some people, but we all know someone who works hard but is still financially insecure. Right. And so I want him to be a smart worker so that he maximizes his abilities and the income he has available to him. So that's what I want to pass on.
Well, I never got an allowance. Is that crazy? So I think the value of money was different for me. The only time I got money was like my birthday or Chinese New Year, where we got the red envelopes with money. And I always look forward to that. And I would put all the money together, put it in the right order, and then try to save it up, And I think that I wish I would have been better with money from a younger age. Like, I didn't open up a bank account probably until I was 16 years old and did all of that. So I haven't always had the best relationship with money or the best experiences. And so what I would like to do to pass on to the next generation is definitely make sure that you have a bank account, make sure that you start saving. I wish I would have started my IRA sooner. But I've always done things like invest in a 401k, because I know that that's money that gets matched at whatever corporation I work at. But there were just so many things that I didn't know about that I wish I would have known about earlier. Like, even right now, I'm still learning how to invest in the stock market, which I have been doing. But I do feel like I'm a late bloomer, but I'm going really hard now.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. This really made me think about how I just realized that everything I think about money actually comes from this memory, because I grew up Muslim, and after, for all of our big holidays, like after Ramadan or after Hajj, a lot of the kids get money. That's the present that you get. And I remember always getting less money than my brother because he was a boy, even though I was older. And, because it's like African families, boys are important. And my dad never did that. My dad was very fair about how he gave all of his children money. But I always noticed that other people would do that. It's like, my brother is younger, but he always got most money. That's interesting. And I always saved everything I had, but I think I was really aware that there was a gap. I was like, oh, I'm being treated differently for some way, shape, or form. And it really, that's a cycle that I want to break a lot in the next generation of my family. I'm like, well, work is work, and everybody who works should get paid fairly. And And also I just think a lot about like saving up that money. There was nothing I wanted to buy, so I used to just hoard money, and we didn't have a lot of money. And one time, like, my mom needed money. We like actually needed money to pay bills and do all these things. And it made me so happy that I could give that money to her, even though, it's like definitely like it's when you grow out of being a child, you're like, okay, like this is the financial reality of my family. But I think that taught me a lot about saving for emergencies and making sure that you could be a self-sufficient person, especially if you are not a man. And also that you can live a life where you can support yourself. Like, you don't have to rely on other people to help you all the time. So that's what I really hope to pass on to the next generation of my family.
I think for me, my parents came into a lot of money when I was really young. And so I didn't grow up with this value for money because it was like that new money thing where they would just spend. And I thought that was the way that it was supposed to be. But as I grew up, I realized that while money doesn't have to be hard to get, it's important to build up the relationships around you, because of course, if you spend it like water, you're going to lose it. And eventually they did, but they didn't have the great relationships that they needed to get back to where they were. And so what I really want to pass on to my children is not necessarily the secure the bag mindset, but to secure their legacy, to secure their relationships, to secure the people around them, so that whether they're up or they're down, they're able to sustain and they're able to grow people as well.
I think that's important. These are also different, but they're all, I think, all valuable lessons.
We all learn different lessons from a young age about money. Well, of course, we want to hear what you came up with, so let us know your response to this week's money meditation. All you have to do is post on social media with that hashtag Live Colorful. That's Live Colorful, F-U-L-L, 2 L's at the end of full. So Live Colorful. And we'll check it out.
And that's it for this week. Make sure you check back next week for our final episode of the season, guys.
Wow.
Yes, I'm excited.
We'll be going over the things we wish we knew before starting a business.
Woo.
So tune in next Wednesday on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Plus, don't forget you can see every episode of Colorful Lives on State Farm's YouTube channel.
Yes, thank you, Yaya.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank y'all.